Okay, this video is a summary slide for why all fats are bad, there are no good fats, and high-fat phonies are full of BS. Okay, a viewer made this slide for me. I think they did a really nice job of it. So up here in this corner, we have the industry hype and bust cycle, kind of the hype and bust cycle of Jeff Nelson, the VegSource guy. That these new supplements, for example, omega-3s, they come out with a health halo. Oh, it's so wonderful, which is really just corporate advertising. And as time goes by, people start to realize, gee, you know what? It doesn't really do much. It's kind of a waste of money. And as more time goes by, they start to realize it not only doesn't do much, but it's toxic for you. For example, omega-3s are associated with increased risk of atrial fibrillation, which is associated with increased risk of dementia. They're associated with increased risk of prostate cancer. And I've never heard of them being associated with increased breast cancer, but a lot of times things that increase one increase the other. Brian Peskin claims that omega-3s can substitute for the normal omega-6 linoleic acids in your cardiolipins and cause decreased mitochondrial function. So I don't know for sure how true that is. One thing I'd be worried about is the more double bonds you have in that fatty acid, the more opportunities there are for lipid peroxidation. That's why you have to put them in a radio-opaque container and get them into the fridge right away. And they're often at least partly lipid peroxidized before you even get them into your fridge. So they're pretty high risk to go rancid and to cause lipid peroxidation reactions in your body. According to Jeff Nelson over at VegSource, he says that you don't even get a significant amount of them up into your brain. Brian Peskin says you're overdosing on the long-form versions of the omega-3s, the EPA and DHA, and the body doesn't really need them. If you start out with the parent version of the C18s, 18-carbon versions, then at least you can make them into different things. Okay, so that's omega-3s. Olive oil is a MUFA, monounsaturated fatty acid, meaning only one double bond. Sat fat has no double bonds. Sat fat is saturated with hydrogens. PUFA is polyunsaturated fatty acid with more than one double bond. So the MUFA, when you talk about olive oil, first of all, a lot of the times it's not the real olive oil you think you're buying, the extra virgin olive oil. Who knows how it's processed? And even the ideal MUFAs tend to have about 14% sat fat. That's a lot of sat fat. They also tend to have a lot of omega-6 fat mixed in with them. So it's not a pure thing. It's bad for arteries. It's obesogenic. I'd recommend staying away from it. It just has great commercial advertising. What else are some of the other things? We know sat fat's bad. We also know with PUFAs, you get even more blood sludging than you do with sat fat. Okay, chylomicrons, triglycerides, and LDL cholesterol will all cause bridging, sticking red blood cells together. Okay, if you fry them, they're even worse. Then you really lipid peroxidize them, and even anyways, without frying them, you're going to get toxic aldehydes from your omega-6s. And hydroxynonenal is associated with causing brain damage through the Calpain-Cathepsin hypothesis theory of Tetsumori Yamashima, MD, PhD from Japan, who felt that after his decades of study, that's the most common reason why Japanese are getting more demented nowadays than they used to be. They also damage pancreatic beta cells and increase your risk of getting diabetes. It's been shown by studies when Nathan Pritikin reviewed the literature that people only need to eat 1% of calories from dietary fat. One study was a White study and a McLean study, and they got enough essential fats. So we really only need minimal amounts of omega-6 and omega-3. And if you're eating any naturally chosen plant-based diet, you should easily obtain that. Dr. McDougall and Nathan Pritikin said it's impossible to be deficient in essential fats or in protein if you're eating any naturally chosen plant-based diet. So potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, they all have only 1% of calories from fat. Oatmeal's got about 15% of calories from fat. I wouldn't eat anything with 17% or more calories of fat. And I usually, my version of the Spartan vegan diet, the Rogers diet, is really only in the ballpark of 4 or 5% of calories from fat. McDougall's diet was about 7% of calories from fat. Esselstyn and Pritikin, were keeping their total fat, 10% of calories or less. Okay, the Master in Diabetes guys say they think you need to keep it 15% of calories or less. I would say the Master in Diabetes guys are young guys like Bobby Bittero and Cyrus Kumbada, and they exercise a lot, so they can get away with more fat than older people who don't exercise so much. Tada Humada ate about 12% of calories from fat, but they don't have any cars. They run around everywhere in the mountains, so they exercise a lot more. They can run 100 miles in 2 days. Okay, so basically, you don't have anything to gain with all these fats. And then here's the other question. Well, where do fats come from? the body can make all the other fats, and you get them from eating dietary fiber. The dietary fiber, sat fat and MUFAs, when you eat those in large amounts, they dramatically increase your risk of leaky gut. Versus the fiber protects you from leaky gut, and in the end, the fiber gets converted by the good bacteria into short-chain fatty acids. Acetate, 2 carbons, propionate, 3 carbons, butyrate, 4 carbons. The butyrate is used especially to make tight junctions. All of this protecting you from leaky gut. So it has the opposite effect of the fiber has the opposite of the effect of the real fats. They predispose to leaky gut. Fiber protects you from leaky gut. But still, some of it is made into lipid and is used by the body. Goes to the liver through the portal vein. So that's what I meant by there is no dietary fat that you should seek out, because you get enough omega-6 and omega-3 just eating low-fat plant foods. And this kind of summarizes why all the other fats, whenever you increase the amount of them you get, it has a negative effect. So anyways, I hope you found that helpful.